Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Barker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
A very warm welcome, everybody, to the penultimate round of the Maximum Networks Touring Car Trophy powered by VRRC. Yes, we're getting down to the crunch point of the season now. Just 2 events left, 4 races to decide our class champions, and things are very, very finely poised indeed as we arrive at one of my personal favourite racetracks in the world, let alone the UK, the wonderful Donington Park circuit in Leicestershire. Andy McEwen here with Jack Oliphant alongside me as ever. We've been here enjoying the ride, Jack, all season long. We've seen some fabulous, fabulous racing. A week ago, Thruxton provided us with some really energetic stuff, and now we are faced with 2 very different racetracks to round out the calendar. Donington Park, the shorter national circuit this week, and then in a week's time, the championship comes to a close on the tight, technical Snetterton 300 circuit. That on the 24th February. But yeah, Jack, we've had a bit of everything so far this season, but no matter what we throw at the drivers, they always provide good racing, and actually in both classes there's no one driver yet setting out as the clear championship favourites, are there?
There absolutely isn't, and what I love about it is the fact that there are 5 prizes to be get up for grabs here as well. So even if the top 3 are running away with it slightly, there's still the battle for 4th, which is evident in both classes, which I love to see. Speaking of both classes, we have gold and we have silver, so we can go through the Thruxton gold results now for you. Jordan Brennan, who played the strategy perfectly in race number 2, I think, after the safety car meant there was a big pile up. He just sort of nipped through it all nice and clean because he hadn't rushed his way to the front on the reverse grid. He came home with the most amount of points. Very good for Jordan Brennan. Jack Smith in 2nd place and Jack McIntyre in 3rd as well. And remember those 3 names. If you've been watching VRRC over the past, well, since Christmas, you will know everything about these 3 drivers now. They're pretty much always at it. If we look towards the silver category, Paul Zanatachi with the car that you can never miss, really pulling on strong as well. And I believe he might have got driver of the day, but we'll have that confirmed in a second. Joel Lask, who has had driver of the day, but I think that was from Brands Hatch, he came in second place in points overall, and Mick Sutton was in third. I think he had some contact, unfortunately, meant he fell down the order a little bit. Driver of the day was, in fact, Paul Zanatachi, so I had remembered that correctly, which is lucky. It's nice how it always works out. But a fantastic evening's racing at Thruxton last time out, Andy. To be honest, one of my least favourite tracks in the world, and now we have gone to my most favourite track in the world as well, Donington, a bit like you.
Yeah, I just love Donington. I think it's got a really lovely flow to it, and it suits this kind of racing really, really well. Thruxton certainly shook things up a little in the championship. The top three scorers within the gold class, they were the top three in the championship, and in that order as well. Jordan Brennan hits the century, 100 points scored so far this season. That puts him 9 points clear now of Jack Smith, and then Jack McIntyre, who never really quite got on the right side of any sort of good fortune a week ago. If ever there was an incident to be involved in, Jack seemed to be in the middle of it, some of them of his own making, some of them less so, and he arrives here at Donington Park, 11 points off the top, with 33 points available per week. That means that it's still all to play for between those three. Mathematically, Dave Newsham, Eric Axelson, they're still in contention, but realistically, as Jack says, they are fighting over the scraps now. Remember, the top 5 finishers, Jack, in each of the classes are going to be earning themselves a prize of some sort. So even if Dave and Eric can't get up amongst the top 3, still well worth fighting for every point they can.
Yeah, which is what we love to see as well. It's such a big prize pool in this championship. I don't know why more people haven't entered, to be honest. If we look down towards the silver category as well, now, we said that there's not really an out-and-out leader at the moment. There would appear to be one in Paul Sanatachi, but when you break the maths down, it actually works out to only 13 points between himself and Andy Carroll, who we know has been very strong. So the silver category is actually a lot more open than the gold. Pretty much the top 4 are all within a shout, or mathematical shout, shall we say, of taking the championship. Martin Johnson in 5th and Kenny Press in 6th. Eric Bolton 7th and Mick Sutton in 8th are all still fighting for that last prize as well to break into that top 5. I don't think any of them are going to surpass Joel Lask, Buki, Carroll or Zanatachi, but there is always that prize that we have to go through. Speaking of prize, we can actually have a look at them now. This is for silver and gold. So if you win silver or you win gold, you still get the first place prize on your screen, which is a share of a TCR UK test day. An amazing prize, probably one of the best prizes I've ever seen in sim racing, to be honest. Big thank you to Maximum Networks for offering up the prize, basically, in that shared test. With second prize being a OBP Esports hydraulic pedals, some of the best esport pedals you can find. They're actually the same type of pedals that are in the Mini Challenge UK series real life car. Third place, a Sims SR simulator SR5 simulator chassis, the highest end simulator chassis that VRRC currently run. Fourth place, 2 VIP tickets to a TCR round. I'm not sure if you get to pick the TCR round or whether Maximum Networks picked it for you, but still, you get to see all behind the scenes and you get all the hospitality trimmings and everything. It's absolutely awesome, so do try and check the TCR out. And if you can go VIP, I urge you to do so. Fifth place, 2-hour simulator training at Silverstone. That is in conjunction with Motus One, and I believe there's a lot of news to come for the simulator training centre that VRRC run at Silverstone. So those are the 5 prizes that are up for grabs. I think the next thing to do is to have a look at a hot lap of Donington in the TCR car.
So across the line for round 5 of the Maximum Networks Touring Car Trophy powered by VRRC, braking at the end of the green of the pits, down to third gear and trying to get off them to allow that front end to turn in and then blend back in on the throttle to get a good drive down through trainer curves. This is going to be fair sketchy, especially in the race, 125 mile an hour in these TCT cars, incredibly fast indeed, braking down to 4th gear and getting off them. You can see the back end of the car quite lively there, but trying to carry as much speed up the old hairpin as possible. Any time that's lost at the start of that will be significantly increased by the time you get to the top. Into 3rd gear for McLean's, try not to push it on too much, and then up towards Coppice, incredibly blind apex there, but you just got to have faith that you know where it is. Blend in the throttle nice and late to make sure you get the best run possible out on the back straight. This is a great overtaking opportunity as long as you can get the move done by the time you get down to this last chicane. You don't really want to be going in here 2x2 because you'll lose significant time. Try not to take too much of that curb there and then focus on getting your run towards the line. That's a lap of Donington for round 5. Make sure you give the video a like and subscribe, and tune in on Thursdays at 7:15 on VRRC's YouTube.
So a lap around the Donington Park National Circuit. It's quick, it's flowing, it's got some real undulation and a couple of places where you can really launch an attack on a driver in front of you if you're so inclined. It's, for me, Jack, not only a hugely satisfying place to drive, at least virtually from my point of view. You've had the wonderful experience of driving it in real life as well, but also it's a great racing circuit, isn't it? I rarely see a dull race around Donington Park, especially on the national circuit.
I think that's why it's always in everybody's sort of top 3 tracks that they enjoy, especially in the UK sort of thing, because although Brands Hatch and Alton Park are a little bit more on the edge and they sort of really bring standout performances from drivers and everything like that, I think Donington is an opportunity to, as you mentioned before, have those special overtakes and have the potential of going too wide pretty much throughout the entire lap. And you can really pull out some spectacular overtakes if you can try as well. I mean, into McLean's here, I've seen people, myself included, I failed, but I've seen people succeed, go around the outside and make it stick, and it's a sensational move. And really, it sort of brings a smile to everyone's faces when they can race around here. It's one of the most commonly used tracks as well in sim racing, and I suppose for good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely a favourite with drivers, both in the real world and in the virtual one. Now, seeing a Smith aboard one of these pink and white SmartFi Cupras is nothing new. We've seen Jack Smith driving one to great success this season. Indeed, he lies second in the championship, arriving here at Donington Park. Brad Smith, however, is a name that we are these days quite familiar with seeing on this grid, but not in that car. That's because having been subbing for Nicky Taylor for the last 2 weeks, well, Nicky is back now from his very important family holiday, and instead he's subbing for Simon Thorpe, who sadly can't be with us here this week. So Simon Thorpe taking a week off, and that means Brad Smith is subbing for him in the silver class. Brad Smith building a bit of a reputation as a super sub here, isn't he? Quick driver as well, and I expect to see him mixing it right at the front in the silver class over the course of the 2 races this evening.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's taken advantage of all the substitutions, hasn't he? He's basically raced in the entire championship without having to pay for it. It's quite incredible, isn't it? It's well done to Brad Smith for being a smart businessman, shall we say. Driver off in the background there, I'm not entirely sure who that is, but yeah, clearly showing that Coppers is a tricky one. But I think Brad Smith, he's now got used to the car, hasn't he, Andy? And you're probably expecting him to... Yeah, he's probably done some testing as well. I don't think he's going to be a newbie at this anyway. We shouldn't be treating him as a newbie or even a sub, really. He's a relatively experienced driver in this car.
No, he certainly is, and indeed everyone, I think, getting to grips with the car more and more as we go through the season, and now arriving at a track like Donington that many of them will know a little bit better than perhaps something like Thruxton, for example. I think we will see a lot of drivers really delivering on their very best. It's Jordan Brennan provisionally on pole position, just leaving the pit lane there, having come in for a fresh set of boots only 5 minutes into this 15-minute qualifying session. Jack Smith is third, Jack Smith is second, Callum Newsham is third, and at the moment would share that second row with his old man Dave Newsham in fourth. Nicky Taylor is fifth. Rob Butler, by the way, makes a welcome return as well. He was suffering with illness a couple of weeks ago, then he had work commitments last week. He's finally run out of excuses, Jack, not to come and race with us, and he's back again, currently lining up sixth.
I know, it feels like he's paid for the gym and just always found an excuse not to come along, hasn't he? But now he's back, he's been dragged in, and I'm sure he'll be looking forward to it, to be honest. I think maybe it didn't go his way in the first couple of weeks, and now he's probably been itching back to get back in, done some practice hopefully, and we'll see the best of Rob Butler, I'm sure. In fact, there he goes, coming in to change his tyres, and you're right, actually, I think it's a touch early to be changing tyres. I would have expected maybe 1 or 2 more laps, Andy, but I suppose these guys, they know better than we do, don't we?
You'd like to think so, yes. I
You'd
suppose
hope
it
so,
is. It is quite a difficult circuit for that left front tyre, isn't it? Because you really only turn right around here. There are a couple of left-handers, but they're either part of a chicane or they're easily flat out, like Starkey's and Schwant's curve. So it's that left front that really takes a beating around Donington Park, and so maybe they're finding that that is limiting their ability to do lots and lots of laps. Some of them haven't yet pitted, though. Paul Zanatachi, I believe, is one of those drivers. He currently lines up on the silver class pole position. He was the top scorer in silver a week ago. That's the second time he's achieved that, and in fact he's the only silver driver to have done that twice over the course of the season. Andy Carroll and Joel Last being the other 2 drivers to come out on top after any individual night of racing. But Zanatachi, always quick, he's also consistent, and he is sort of nursing now this 13-point advantage in class, and you can see why he's got it, because not only is he capable of almost always outpacing the rest of his class opposition, but he's regularly in amongst the gold class drivers, and that, Jack, gives him a buffer then, particularly at the start of the first race.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see, really, because obviously newcomers or new viewers to VRRC might be thinking, oh, wow, he's putting it straight up there in amongst drivers who are supposed to be or are sort of a lot better than him. But it's not really the case, to be honest, because Zanatachi, Nicky Taylor, Carl Felvis, those 3 drivers specifically, they're all silver drivers until this championship and the MX5 championship on a Tuesday that runs in conjunction with this. So realistically, you're looking at 3 silver drivers who are 6th, 7th, and 8th. Nicky Taylor and Carl Felvis have just been bumped up by VRRC into that gold category, but they're sort of brand new into the gold category. So we're not expecting them to be fighting with McIntyre or Smith or Brennan or even Axelson, who is at the moment underperforming in qualifying. So it's quite nice to see Zanatachi, he's sort of getting the headlines because he is that silver driver, but he's mixing it with people he's always mixed it with. It just so happens that they're very quick, and I don't know why Paul hasn't been bumped up to gold, to be honest.
I was going to say that's possibly going to be happening very soon, you would imagine.
I imagine
the
so.
Performance of this season. So 6th place for him at the moment. Jordan Brennan going quicker again. He's already got a 10th and a half in hand over his big championship rival Jack Smith, 2nd quickest. Let's get him across the line, see whether he can improve. One car on the grass ahead, another car dives for the pit lane. None of that distracts Jordan Brennan though, and he finds just over another 10th. So he's now got more than a quarter of a second back to Jack Smith in 2nd place. I think I spotted Jack McIntyre coming across the line in the background. I was about to say he's down in 5th, but Jack, that now becomes 6th position for the man 3rd in the championship. Rob Butler goes 4th, and Jack McIntyre, a bit like we saw last week at Thruxton, not getting the lap in early in qualifying. Now, a week ago he did improve late in the session, but that, I seem to remember, was to a bit of a slipstream from none other than the points leader.
Yeah, I was going to say, they almost played mind games against himself, wasn't he, Jordan Brennan, at that point? Just trying to take a little bit less advantage for Jack Smith at the time. But in Donington, there is a slipstream, but it's nowhere near as important as at Thruxton, so we're not going to really see those kind of mind games. What I will say is, I think Jordan Brennan, we've mentioned that at 10 minutes he came out with a fresh set of boots on, didn't he? He's clearly warmed them up, and this is his 2nd flying lap. You can tell the temperature in the tyres is bang on. I think it's a fixed setup series as well, so no one has to worry about him having a better setup, but he's clearly just timed that to perfection. I wouldn't expect him to go much quicker now. In fact, he's already back in the pit. I think he might be putting on another set of tyres. We could be sitting at a 3-run stint here in qualifying.
I think he is, and of course he's being helped by the fact that it's a pretty short lap. It's, as you can see, 1 minute 8 at the moment is the fastest time that he sets. That means that you can get 3 or 4 laps in per run, if you like, and then bail for the pit lane and get the tyres changed, and you haven't wasted half your session as you would do at a longer circuit, such as Snetterton in a week's time, where we're going to see lap times potentially getting on for about the 2-minute mark. Callum Newsham still sitting 3rd. He's had serious speed actually this season. He's only done a part season, wasn't able to compete in the first week or so. Since he arrived on the grid, Jack, he has been very, very rapid, but a little bit accident prone, I think it's fair to say, and he's another of these drivers that we always seem to be talking about for the wrong reasons. Nothing to doubt about his outright speed, he just needs to try and put a clean night together.
I think I mentioned it last week, actually, is the fact that pretty much sums up Callum Newsham's career in VRRC as far as I've been able to tell you. You're absolutely right. His outright speed is right up there, and to be honest, he always looks like he's going to take some scalps in terms of trophies away from some bigger, sort of, I suppose, more championship-driven drivers. But again, it doesn't seem to quite come to fruition, shall we say. It sort of always seems to evaporate for some reason. We're hoping tonight's a little bit different. Obviously, we'd love to see Callum realise his speed and his racecraft comes together and he manages to get on the podium. But I suppose we'll have to wait and see. Apparently, he's maybe having a little bit of internet issues here and there, which we've seen in the past from Callum as well. But fingers crossed it works out for him tonight.
Improvement there from Eric Axelsson, 5th fastest. There he is going through Redgate Corner. That was a really good lap from Eric, who arrives here a little bit further down the championship than you'd expect. Well, 5th place, I suppose. He's only 4 points, actually, behind Dave Newsham. He's just out-qualified Dave by 1 position, provisionally, of course. Still 4.25 minutes or so to go. But Eric Axelsson starting to gel nicely with the car around here at Donington Park. What can this man do, though? Jack Smith, he needs to start beating Jordan Brennan on a pretty consistent basis, you'd have to say, because generally speaking, Jordan and Jack, they end up leaving each week with a similar amount of points to each other, really. So if Jack is going to do anything about this 9-point deficit that he's at the moment, he needs to start beating Brennan. And with only 4 races to go, Jack, he needs to start doing it now.
Yeah, he'll be hoping for better than the exit of that last corner, I'm sure. Jack Smith comes across the line. It was a green sector 1. It's not really going to be quick enough to upset Jordan Brennan. McIntyre also, he got into 3rd at that point, and then Dave Newsham's pipped him. So now he's overtaken Callum, and Callum's been bumped all the way down to 5th. So we're starting to see the real lap times, the real Hail Marys, shall we say, coming into the floor. And I can tell you, actually, that Jack McIntyre has just gone purple in Sector 1. Callum Newsham, 2 green sectors as well. So Andy, this could all change. In fact, Callum Newsham comes across the line and comes 2nd. Jack Smith's been demoted down into 3rd at the moment. Dave Newsham, purple sector 1 as well. So McIntyre and Newsham. Dave Newsham, although he's looking very slow now, he must have thrown it off at Old Hall. Even Old Hairpin even. Here goes Jack McIntyre. We'll focus on him.
Yeah, I did see Dave going wide in the background at the Old Hairpin. He bails from the lap, but Jack McIntyre still pushing on. Needs to improve, at least get himself back onto that 2nd row of the grid. Can he do it? Yes, he can. 3rd quickest for Jack McIntyre. He's ahead, suddenly, of Jack Smith. So all out of nowhere, really. Jack Smith is now the championship contender within the gold class that has it all to do. All of this, though, happening behind Jordan Brennan, who still has nearly 2 tenths in hand over Newsham Jr., 2nd, Jack McIntyre 3rd, and Jack Smith in 4th place. But we still have 2.5 minutes to go, so time to get another couple of laps in. McIntyre's pushing on again. Can he beat his previous best first sector? No, he can't. Quite a slow first sector in the end. What about Callum Newsham? Can he go for pole, I wonder? His father bails for the pit lane, but Newsham Jr. comes across the start-finish line. He's currently 2nd place. He will stay 2nd place and doesn't quite improve that time. But there were a lot of changes there all of a sudden. I'll be interested to see now, Jack, who has got tyres left to go after another really quick lap.
Well, one driver that probably won't has just been held up on the inside there. But Jordan Brennan, I can tell you, is on a green at Sector 1. So he's hoping, obviously, he can pull it all together. And realistically, I personally think he's quite safe in pole at the moment. Nobody's really shone to the reason why he would be upset. He's just gone purple. Sector 2. This is a very quick lap by Jordan Brennan, but that might ruin it as he pushes a little bit too hard out of the final corner. He comes across the line. Is it going to be an improvement? No, that final corner really ruined him.
Yeah, Jack McIntyre to the pits as well, so we're not going to see an improvement out of him. Kyle Felvers did just improve to 8th positions. Anatachi then down to 9th. Fastest silver driver, but look how tight that is, because Brad Smith a while ago went 2nd, and there is next to nothing between them. Rob Butler's been inside the top 3 or 4 for a part of this session. He's down in 6th now, though, and he'll come through to go on to his final flying lap of the session. Can he improve on his penultimate one? No, but he's got some nice clean air, which, as you say, is probably what you want around here at Donington Park. There's Kyle Felvers, as I said, just improved to 8th position. As far as the silver cars are concerned, advantage Zanatachi definitely. Only 3 1,000ths up on Brad Smith, but of course Smith is not a championship regular with that class. The 2nd place driver in the championship is Andy Carroll, and he, Jack, is only 4th at the moment of the silvers, all the way down in 13th place.
Yeah, Dave Buki, though, is 3rd in the silvers, or arguably 2nd, because Brad Smith's not really counting, and he's quite high in the championship as well. So the silver, I think I said it right at Alton Park at the get-go. Yeah, the silver's probably going to be the closer championship, and that is what we are seeing. Pretty much every single prize is still up for grabs between about 5 or 6 drivers. Dave Buki can't improve to get past Nicky Taylor, who's maybe struggling a little bit more with the TCR, jumping back in the TCR car. than he did jumping back in the MX-5, because he drove really well on his first comeback, shall we say, on Tuesday. A little bit more difficult here. Rob Butler, 2 green sectors. The top 3 have finished. Their checkered flag has dropped. What can Rob Butler do? He pips into the top 5 and displaces Dave Newsham. And Rob Butler, I'm sure, will be very pleased with that. Not that far off. Only about a tenth of a second away from Jack Smith, who is a big scalp to take.
On in the gravel there. That might have been Kyle Felvis, I think, possibly. Yes, it was. Not sure where that is. McLean's, I would hazard a guess. Now, Brad Smith, can he get himself ahead of Zanatachi here for the class pole, in inverted commas? There is a point available for setting the fastest time in this qualifying session, and I believe that extends to both classes. Certainly Jordan Brennan has just scored himself a bonus point. That means he's now 10 points clear at the top of the Gold Championship. Into the pit lane goes Brad Smith. And that means we're pretty much done now. Carl Velvis still enjoying the view from the gravel trap up at McLean's. He's just seen Jack Smith come barrelling through, because Jack has one last shot at this. Can he improve upon 4th position? Could do with at least getting ahead of McIntyre, really, couldn't he, for 3rd place? Comes across the start-finish line. He does it as well. 3rd place for Jack Smith, right at the death. And by, in the end, the narrowest of margins. What's that? 4 1,000ths of a second between the two of them. And Jack Smith does get himself ahead of one of his championship rivals, Jack McIntyre. It's Jordan Brennan on pole position, though, and we'll hear from him after this short break.
At SmartFi, we do things differently. It starts with our 100% buyback guarantee. When you buy SmartFi token on the Smart Portal and hold it for a year or more, we'll buy back your token at the price you paid for any reason under the sun. You can borrow cash with our collateralized crypto loans or earn up to 13% interest on your holdings. SmartFi unleashes the true potential of cryptocurrencies. And there are so many reasons, now more than ever, to get involved. Join us today at smartfi.com. Grow your wealth and secure your future with simple, smart, and safe finance.
Maximum Networks Touring Car Trophy, powered by VRRC, has rolled into the rolling hillsides of Donington Park. We've just completed our 15-minute qualifying session, and it's Jordan Brennan that lines up on pole position. Jordan, I've said that a few times this season. 3 times I've just been informed that you've managed to set the fastest time in qualifying. You've really got this down, haven't you? What is it that it takes to get that quick lap out of the car in qualifying?
Honestly, I don't know. It just sort of happens. Yes, I don't know. It's difficult track around here, so getting it right is quite difficult, to be fair. But I don't know. I just seem to have found more pace than everyone else around here, so well, I'll take that.
It's a real rhythm track, this, isn't it? A lot of UK tracks are, actually, but this one, because it's so flowing, it's all about momentum. Do you find that it takes you a couple of laps to really get into your groove? Your fastest lap did not come in that first run, did it?
No, it was a big train on that first queue, so I just sort of dived into the pits quite early just to get the gap. I think that helped a lot, just being away from everyone else.
Championship-wise, then, you could mathematically wrap the title up tonight. I'm going to say I'm not expecting you to, because you and Jack Smith and Jack McIntyre, almost always, there's very little to choose between you by the end of the night. But have you set yourself any goals of what you'd like your points advantage to be going into that final week, or is that just not even entering your mind?
It's just not entering. I'm just going to drive and see what happens.
Excellent. I'm sure we're going to see some good racing out there. Best of luck for it. We'll let you carry on with your preparations, and who knows, we may well be speaking to you on the podium afterwards.
Yes, thank you.
Jordan Brennan then getting set to start from what is for him a very familiar position, pole position for our first of 2 races tonight. Do not go anywhere after the first one's done, because the second race rolls around very quickly, and that has the full reversed grid. Anyone that finishes this first race gets reversed, and that means that the winner of this race regularly find themselves starting race 2 outside the top 15 or so. So it's Jordan Brennan on pole, Callum Newsham alongside him. Jack, that's a very interesting front. I think we sort of anticipated a week ago that Callum Newsham might get involved with the championship battle because he qualified well there. That never really happened, but what do we think? Maybe this week?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult, really, because obviously Callum Newsham, he's here pretty much just for trophies, isn't he? And to try and enjoy himself and look good on the live stream, I imagine. But we've seen his internet issues have meant that he's had some issues on the track as well, obviously, which we never like to see. And it's a difficult position for Callum. I never enjoyed it. It's like going into a guest round at a championship. Sometimes I'd be offered a guest round in a Ginetta or something, or an MX-5 or something like that, and I'd think, yeah, it'd be really fun. I enjoy racing at Donington, for instance, or something as a one-off. But I don't want to get involved in someone else's championship and unfortunately potentially ruin it as well. So it's a bit of a 6 of 1 how Callum approaches this, but he's a racer. He loves to get involved in real life scraps and everything like that. Obviously, he's a real life TCR driver this year. Obviously, been in the minis. I'm sure he'll be right stuck in there, trying to prove that he deserves to be in the championship fight if he could have stayed there.
Yeah, definitely. He's a young up-and-coming tin-top driver. He's got a point to prove, as you say, and I'm sure that the man that lines up on the outside of row 1 is not going to be backwards and coming forwards. What effect that might have on the championship, though, awaits to be seen. A reminder, then, that Jordan Brennan, now he's scored that point for pole position, is 10 points clear of Jack Smith, who starts the pink and blue Smart Thigh car directly behind him, third on the grid, and then 2 points further back, now 12 off the top, is Jack McIntyre in the blue car that lines up 4th on the grid. He needs to try and make some progress, but Jack is a very, very good racer. If anyone can make progress at the start, it's probably likely to be him. Here we go then. The start procedure begins. Ready to go racing for the first time of 2 races here tonight at Donington Park in the Maximum Networks Touring Car Trophy, powered by VRRC. The lights go out. The drivers power off the line. Not a great start by Rob Butler. Axelson alongside him already. In fact, Axelson's off like a rocket and might even get past Dave Newsham before they get to turn 1. It's Brennan that leads, though. Callum Newsham second, side by side. The third there to the outside was McIntyre, and he might just be able to make that work. Tries to get the momentum off the corner. No, they stay in grid order for the top 4. The big mover at the start there, Jack, the 5th place man.
Yeah, he's done fantastically well, but we're focusing on Dave Newsham versus Rob Butler here as they go towards Old Hairpin. Butler trying to slot up the inside. It's pretty much always going to happen. Carl Felder's getting on the mix as well. This is the old versus young. I'm sure Dave Newsham won't mind me saying it, but he's an experienced gentleman, shall we say, in the world of racing. Carl Felder is only 14 years old, so this is a fascinating battle to see. But Rob Butler is really hanging on in there, and I think that's Jack Smith off the outside of the track, and that's going to help a lot of people get past him. It's not going to help him at all. Luckily, he comes safely back on circuit, and nobody gets involved with any big incidents. Jack McIntyre right at the back of the field as well, as Carl Felder is off the circuit, unfortunately, after picking him up earlier on. Jordan Brennan leads, and then Callum Newsham. Eric Axelson is pretty much the cork in the bottle, shall we say.
Well, that is big trouble. Oh! Contact, Axelson off, Butler off, Dave Newsham goes through, but they're both in the barriers. That did not need to happen at all. It was a big check-up in the middle of the chicane, and I think, unfortunately, the driver that was furthest back in that group possibly could have done more to avoid the contact, but either way, they carry on. What is going on there? Safety cars out, there we go. Thought that was some interesting driving from Nicky Taylor, who was almost losing it as he weaved down the pit straight. So much to unpack after that first lap. It's Jordan Brennan that leads. Callum Newsham is second. His father Dave up to third in robust fashion, shall we say. 4th place Brad Smith, the super sub, is leading in the silver category then, having cleared not only Paul Zanatachi but a couple of gold drivers as well. One of those is Nicky Taylor in 5th. 6th place Jack Smith. The championship leader then, Jordan Brennan, now has a big advantage over Smith and McIntyre. They both got delayed there, Jack, which means that whatever happened at McLean's, it clearly involved them both. What I'd love to know is whether it involved contact between the two of them, either to instigate it or whether one of them had a moment and then contact happened either way. Regardless of that, it's delayed them, it's put them both in that hornet's nest now where things can so easily go wrong. And yet again, it's Jordan Brennan that comes out better of the big 3 in the championship.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, I suppose we won't know unless we have an interview with the driver that ended up in that contact, maybe after race 2, because it's going to be hard work for any of them to get into the podiums on race 1. But I think we've already gone. Safety car lights are out, and Jordan Brennan not messing around whatsoever. Foot down nice and early, trying to get the best exit out of the final corner. A couple of drivers will probably overextend their exit on the way out, but I think they've all just kept it nice and tidy. By the looks of it, Brad Smith is having to defend from Nicky Taylor, and we love to see these two battling it out. Obviously, Brad Smith was a substitute for Nicky Taylor earlier in this championship, and it's fascinating to see them both fighting it out on circuit now, with Jack Smith just behind them, remember. He won't want to be held up at all. He needs to get through this battle quickly so we can get the back of Dave Newsham.
But he's not really on the tail of these two, is he? Didn't have a great restart there, Jack Smith, and likewise, McIntyre is quite some distance behind Paul Zanatachi, so and neither of them look rapid, so I wonder if they've sustained a bit of damage in whatever happened up at this part of the circuit on the opening lap. Brennan leads them from Newsham and Newsham, second and third. Mick Sutton here we're seeing at the back of the silver category, a category led by Brad Smith, but Zanatachi, second in that category, is the highest placed sort of scoring driver, if you like, with Buki next ahead of Joel Lask. Down the exhibition straight they go then, so named because of the exhibition centre, which is just to the left of the drivers as they hurtle towards the chicane, the Roberts chicane, turn right, turn left, they hammer the curbs through both parts of the chicane, and now it looks like Jack Smith is starting to wind himself up, he's closing in on these two, and of course Smith will be very aware here that he must not make life too difficult for his teammate, especially since Brad is not a full season driver in that Smartfire car.
Exactly. Looking further back though, Axelson and Felvis and Sutton and Hayden all sort of getting their elbows out, really having a proper squabble amongst themselves for 15th position almost. It's not where any of them wanted to be, but it's where they found themselves in. By the looks of it, they're being robust and trying to be the one to force themselves forward, shall we say. Nicky Taylor, right in the middle of the smart fight sandwich. He's got to be smart here as well, because he doesn't know whether he needs to defend or attack or what to do, really. If he's going to attack, needs to be decisive, and that's a huge tank slapper by Dave Newsham just ahead of them. Maybe they'll see that, and maybe they'll think there's a bit of weakness there, maybe. Jack Smith looking up the inside, not quite putting Nicky Taylor off his game, and that'll put Jack Smith off the track, though. So speaking of off his game, he's just back on the circuit, but maybe that's an indication that the car's not quite happy, or that he's overdriving it, Andy.
Yeah, well, possibly a combination of the two, because that is one of those corners, Coppis, where you've got to be disciplined. So is the chicane, and he makes another mistake there over the grass. In the background, look, McIntyre's got to run on Zanatachi. Now, in a way, Zanatachi doesn't really need to get his elbows out too much defending this position. They're running in both different classes, but Paul has not shied away from battling against the gold drivers so far this season. I don't imagine he's going to start doing so now. And indeed, they run wheel to wheel through Redgate, through Hollywood, and down into the Crane of Kerrs. Jack McIntyre's got the advantage through the left-hander, carries the momentum through, and he's now just one position behind Jack Smith, but neither of them at the moment set to outscore the championship leader. Everyone in the grass coming out of the old hairpins, Zanatachi, Buki and Joel Lask, and that, Jack, now becomes a really significant battle, because those are the top three sort of full season silver drivers in this race at the moment, running 8th, 9th and 10th overall.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, because obviously they want to fight amongst themselves, but they don't want to be caught. They don't want to get entangled, let's say, with the gold drivers. But the more the gold fight between themselves, the more they'll catch them. And that's Carl Felvers being overtaken by Rich Hayden, who is squeezed up the inside there really nicely. I think they're all a bit lucky to not make contact with Mick Sutton, to be honest, who seem to be on the more traditional racing line. Going down towards the final corner, though, final hairpin, shall I say. It seems they've calmed each other out. But look at this, Carl Felvers with a really nice run on Rich, and there's a little bit of a tap up the backside. I don't think Carl could quite move over quickly enough. He's just ruined his run, unfortunately. He's not going to have the opportunity into T1. But in fact, actually, Rich may have taken the extra boost he got off Kyle, off his little tap at the rear, and gotten past Mick Sutton. I think he's just about done it. Oh, there's more tapping as they come out.
Yeah, Mick had something to say about that. Oh, and then another bit of contact down the hill, this time from Kyle Felvers, who's not really enjoying this battle, gets into the side of Mick Sutton. Mick Sutton goes off the road. That was a tad unnecessary, you'd have to say. That was definitely a jink to the left, and given how much casual contact those three drivers had had over the last half a lap, I wouldn't be at all surprised to hear that they have a discussion about that. The race. Anyway, out of Coppis we go, down the exhibition straight. It's been remarkably calm at the front of the field. Brennan is 2.2 seconds up the road from the first of the Newshams. Then Callum's got about 1.2 seconds in hand over Dave Newsham third. The race is for fourth position. Brad Smith refusing to get out of the way of Nicky Taylor. Why should he? Because they're fighting for position, even if they're in different classes. And, of course, he's maybe trying here, Brad, to help his teammate for the week, Jack Smith, to get onto and stay onto terms with Nicky Taylor. But there just isn't the pace out of either Jack Smith or Jack McIntyre's cars that you would expect here.
No, I'm just trying to have a look at maybe some of the last laps set by Jordan Brennan. He's just done a sub 108, so 108.9. And then we look at the likes of Jack Smith, a 109.3, so comfortably 4/10 off. And that's not even taking into account the best lap that each driver has done. If we're talking about best lap, there's a good half a second between Brennan and Smith. And McIntyre's not faring much better. In fact, he's faring a little bit worse than Smith's overall pace here. So it's difficult, really, for McIntyre and Smith. And this is the problem they have, really, in terms of mind games for the championship. is it's all very tight at the top of the championship. But obviously there are only 4 races to go, and any advantage, however small or big, is still an advantage. And Jordan Brennan seems to only be eking that out. And 3 races to go with what will be between a 15 and a 20-point margin if it finished like this. That's a lot to ask, Andy, isn't it? You're basically hoping, whereas you're never sort of hoping this on a driver, but you're hoping that Brennan has a really bad race somewhere. It's the only opportunity they're going to try and bring it back. Otherwise, Brennan is just going to sort of, I suppose, keep it chilled out, sort of coast through and just take any losses as they come and try and minimise the damage, and he'll come out on top.
Yes, well, doing some quick maths, I say I've done some quick maths, my spreadsheet has done the maths for me, and I reckon at the moment Brennan would be about 20 points clear of Jack McIntyre and then, Jack Smith I should say, and then McIntyre 3 points further back. There will be 33 points available to tonight's second race, so if Brennan could leave this race 20 points up the road and then somehow come through to win race 2, there is still a chance that he could wrap up the championship here tonight. It's highly likely that that won't happen, but of course the bigger the cushion that he has going to Snetterton, the less of a stressful week it's going to be building up to that final round of the championship. Still a long way to go though. We're not even halfway through this race yet. We're on board with Jack Smith, we're carrying a lot of speed through the chicane, but we've got a face full of Nicky Taylor, and that's the trouble. If you don't time that run through the chicane right, then there's nowhere to go with that momentum. Now he finds a gap though, he's on the inside. I don't actually think that Taylor's going to fight this too hard, is he? Well, stands his ground a bit on the outside, and he does try to carry the speed off the corner. And remember, if he stays there long enough, then Smith will have once again the inside line through the left-hand element of the crane of curves. Wheel to wheel, this is risky stuff for Jack Smith, but it's what he needs to do. They're losing time to the car ahead, they're losing time to the car behind. McIntyre as well. Smith goes through, but Taylor tries to get the switch back. McIntyre with a big run on the pair of them. There's nowhere for him to go though. Jack McIntyre goes to the right, goes back to the left again. There just isn't the space. Almost 3 wide as they go through Schwant's curve, and Jack Smith finds himself on the outside line. He finds himself getting a hit check there from Nicky Taylor, and McIntyre sees the opportunity, goes through on the inside. That did not go to plan at all for Jack Smith.
Absolutely not, no. And Nicky Taylor, to be honest, I was surprised that he gave so much room going into Redgate, into turn 1, to be honest, because he is a driver that will not give it up. He's brilliantly fair, I have to say. I'm always very impressed with Nicky Taylor, but he will not give it up, no matter how prestigious or how low the fight that he's giving in. It's whether it's for a championship point or whether it's for first place, he will always fight to the bitter end, and that's what we love to see him. But you're right, Jack Smith just couldn't make it stick. He couldn't get past him. McIntyre is now the driver that really needs to try and take advantage, get past Taylor, put himself ahead, and put Taylor in between himself and championship rival Jack Smith. But unfortunately, McIntyre's been here before. He knows just how hard it is to get past Nicky Taylor. And I think even Donington, it was, in the MX-5s, where Taylor just wouldn't let McIntyre past. And that meant that McIntyre actually ended up third. Nicky Taylor was second, I believe, in that race. That's exactly what we're seeing, because Jack Smith has got the run on McIntyre because McIntyre couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, he took a tight line into the old hairpin, didn't make the move, and then ran wide onto the grass, and there's contact into Coppice corner. Brilliant save by Jack Smith, but now they've got Paul Zanatachi on their case, because Zanatachi has caught them hand over fist as they've been delaying each other. It goes to show it's actually surprisingly difficult to pull off an overtake here tonight. You might be able to get the inside line, but the momentum that you can carry through the outside line is often, it would seem, enough to keep you ahead. So it ends up with Brad Smith in 4th, Nicky Taylor 5th, Jack McIntyre, I'll start that again. Smith 4th, Taylor 5th, then Jack Smith in 6th, McIntyre down to 7th, and Zanatachi in 8th position. That's still second in the silver class though, but Dave Buki is actually putting in some really good laps. Dave always goes well here at Donington Park in the real world Civic Cup that he's had so much success in the past, and he's showing that speed again. He's closing on Zanatachi, and remember, arriving here at Donington Park, he's 20, no he's not, he is 17 points behind Zanatachi for the Silver Class Championship, so that also is an important battle.
It absolutely is, and I have to say, if it wasn't for a round of applause sounding terrible through a microphone, I would have given one to Jack Smith there, because that was a fantastic save, to be honest. Just want to bring it up once again, make sure he's aware that that was top dollar stuff. Carl Felbers has been stuck, shall we say. He might have damage. Obviously, there was a lot of contact, and I believe the words you used before was casual contact between the three drivers that were fighting towards the back end of the field. That's the most PC way of saying I think they started hitting each other out the way, basically. And realistically, I think that's what we've come to see in this race. They need to calm down. Hopefully race 2, realistically, if they stay where they are right now, you've said it quite a lot, Andy, in this championship, if they stay where they are, they're going to be right at the front for race 2. So there's no need to sort of ruin their name, shall we say, by making contact or making ambitious moves or anything like that. So let's hope they just sort of calm it down for the next 6 minutes and just focus. You've got 20 minutes, 20-minute race in about 10 minutes' time.
Yeah, I've been saying that since the start of the season, but they never listened to me, so I'm giving up now. Just started enjoying the fireworks as they fight hell for leather over 14th place. But that actually was a clean move by Carl Felvis there. Gets himself ahead of Johnson, and he's only 2.1 seconds behind Eric Axelsen, who himself has also been in the war, of course. So he might still be able to get another spot, and that would be for position within class, and you only score points within your class. So that overtake he made on Johnson didn't earn him any extra points. This is Felvis we're talking about, but the next overtake, if he can catch and pass Eric Axelsen, could gain him an extra point or so. Down the back straight they go. Right then, time for round 2 here between Jack Smith and Nicky Taylor. Smith has closed back in on Nicky, who defends resolutely heading towards Redgate Corner, as he's entitled to do, but that's going to slow him down on the exit. Does he park it on the apex? Tried to, but the car just understeers out wide. I'm not sure this is going to work. Jack Smith has been in this position before and ended up losing a place to Jack McIntyre, who, look, is there again, right behind them, side by side through the crater curves, inside line for the old hairpin for Smith. He needs to get it done, though. Carries a bit more speed. There's inevitable contact, and McIntyre goes past the pair of them. On the grass there goes Jack Smith. McIntyre's past his championship leader, and now he tries to get up the inside of Nicky Taylor as well, into McLean's. Job done for Jack McIntyre. What did I say at the start of the race, Jack? He is a brilliant racer. McIntyre gets sideways, though, off the front of Nicky Taylor's car. This is an all-out brawl.
Yeah, I said that Nicky Taylor, he won't give it up, and he's absolutely not, is he? He's going to have the position back off McIntyre here. This is the thing with Nicky Taylor. His race, his speed in qualifying is not there, but his racecraft is right up there with the best of them. And that means when they get wheel to wheel, he can actually hold his own. I think he is slightly out of place, though. He's a cork in a bottle, shall we say. And McIntyre now does have the move done. It is vital for Jack Smith, for this race in particular, to get the move done on Nicky in this lap. It's crucial. And as they go through through turn 1, he's not close enough. But look who is close, Andy. Right behind them in that rearview mirror is Paul Zanatachi, and he's got Dave Buki to worry about. He won't want to hang around either.
No, definitely not. Ooh, bit of lift-off oversteer maybe there through the crater curves. That was sketchy. Looks like McIntyre is getting away now. Worth pointing out that Nicky Taylor, remember, is a gold-class driver, so that pass for McIntyre was worth an extra couple of points. He now runs 4th in class. That scores him 8 points. Previously, it was only 4 because, of course, he was behind both of these, so that was a point swing for him. Wide goes Taylor. Is this maybe Smith's opportunity? Gets the inside of Compass, and he was not taking no for an answer there, was he? He just sends it over the apex curve, and he does now clear Taylor. He might have to defend the position again heading into the chicane, and he'll almost be hoping here, Jack Smith, that Zanatachi does now start to make life difficult for Taylor. That's not going to happen, though. Taylor's back up the inside and reclaims the pace. Does he? They're side by side through the chicane. There's going to be a hip check on the exit. No, they keep it clean, and still, Jack, they run side by side.
I don't think Smith knows what else he can do, to be honest. I don't know what else he can do to try and get past Nicky Taylor. A fantastic battle. It's lovely for us to watch. It's fantastic as spectators. And Nicky Taylor has got the move done on Jack Smith yet again. He's nudged him out wide. A bit of rubbing his racing, hung him out to dry, shall we say. Whatever cliche you want to throw out there. The upshot is Smith is being overtaken by Zanatachi, and I think Dave Buki as well. No, Buki just holds off. So all of a sudden, Nicky Taylor's got Zanatachi as a buffer between himself and Jack Smith. This goes from bad to worse for Smith. He started on the 2nd row, Andy, and he's all the way back in 8th.
And he started tonight 2nd in the championship, but provisionally he would be 3rd, because now McIntyre is actually outscoring him by enough points to move ahead of him in the championship. They would still be some way behind Jordan Brennan, but still, for 2nd place, remember, different prizes for each position within the top 5 at the end of the season. Further up, the better the prize, so that is still of significance for McIntyre. But of course, we've got another race to come tonight, and that will be a full reverse. So if Smith finishes where he is now, he'd have several grid positions in hand over for McIntyre and especially Brennan. I mean, Jack Smith running down in 8th position. That's 8 spots higher than the championship leader. Zanatachi weirdly slow there down the pit straight. Smith to the outside. Can he go right round the outside? This is again a risky move to make, but Jack Smith, you're right, he has no choice. He's got to put himself into these dangerous positions. He's got to try and make progress.
Yeah, Zanatachi will just be thinking, I don't want to fight you, but if I don't, then Dave Buki is right there as well. But in the fighting, he might actually lose out on Buki, who's going on the attack here. We saw this a couple of laps ago with Jack McIntyre overtaking the two of them. But this time it's Zanatachi, Smith and Buki who pulls out of the move. Zanatachi going defensive. Smith trying to crawl over that second apex. Around the outside. Who's that off? On the just up ahead. I think it was maybe Nicky Taylor throwing a little bit too much through it. Jack Smith on the inside, then Zanatachi getting a little bit bumped out of the way. Dave Buki may well have the inside on Zanatachi here. We could be seeing a change for what is basically the lead of the silver category if you ignore Brad Smith. But I think Jack Smith's going to have this move just about done. Dave Buki's going to follow him through.
Oh, and that's important. It gets him ahead of Zanatachi. Rob Butler's a part of this now. So is Joel Lask. So is Andy Carroll. Almost. Carroll a bit further back, actually. But Joel Lask in the red and white car. Another silver class championship contender who could do with beating Zanatachi, who's got Butler up the inside, and he goes up the inside of Buki. There's contact between all three.
Oh!
And Buki's off sideways for Zanatachi, and Joel Lask gets the lot of them. Fantastic driving from Joel Lask to move into 8th place and 2nd of the silvers. He was in the right place at the right time, and you've got to feel for Dave Buki there because he did nothing wrong there. He was the meat in the sandwich, and he ended up coming out of that the worst.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I took my eye off it stupidly and looked over at my timing tower, and I can't believe I did because I can't see actually what on earth happened there. But all I know is the fact that Joel Lask has taken massive advantage. Fair play to him. As long as he wasn't the one who caused the contact, then you got to take advantage where you see it, haven't you, in racing at the end of the day. But Dave Buki, that is a bit heartbreaking. Gets past Eric Axelson, who throws it off the circuit a little bit. But I think, oh, that's the checkered flag. Jordan Brennan's taken this race victory. We've pretty much forgotten he's even in the race, Andy, but he has taken the checkered flag in the first race at Donington. Callum Newsham back this time with no issues, takes that 2nd place, and Dave Newsham joins his son on the podium as well. I'm sure they'd love a picture of that if it was a real-life championship. Brad Smith takes the victory in silver. Fortunately, he won't get all the points, obviously, for that. Jack McIntyre finishes 4th in class, 5th overall. Nicky Taylor 6th. Jack Smith wavering down in 7th position, but the driver we want to focus on a little bit as well is Joel Lask, right at the death there, taking the checkered flag, and the last lap with 2nd in silver category, but we all know that is basically 1st because Brad Smith doesn't really count.
Breathe, everybody. That was only the first of 2 races tonight. We'll have all of the reaction, and there'll be plenty of it, I'm sure, from that race the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, to Donington Park and the Maximum Networks Touring Car Trophy powered by VRRC. Do you know what? I'm going to put in a complaint to the VRRC, I think, because that race needed to be twice as long. 20 minutes just wasn't enough time to squeeze all of the action in. Although there were 3 drivers who kind of avoided all of the action, and maybe that's why they ended up in our podium positions. It's another race victory for Jordan Brennan, one that now, I reckon, moves him more than 20 points ahead in the championship. Jordan, an important race win, and from the outside looking in, a pretty easy race win. I'm sure it wasn't as easy as it looked, but that was one of the less stressful races so far this season, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a lot less stressful, but yeah, it was helped by that start. I just got a really good start, hooked up, and I had the gap before turn 1, so it was away from there. And then I'd seen in my mirror, I think Jack got caught up in an incident. I was like, oh, that'll do, that'll do nicely. And then the safety car came out, and I was like, oh no, that's not what I wanted. But yeah, it went all right.
It certainly did. I mean, you missed out on all of the fun, in a way, further back, but that's possibly not a bad thing. You won't have the same luxury in race 2, though, now. You're going to be coming from deep in the field, and because Jack Smith and Jack McIntyre didn't have such a good race, they're starting some way ahead of you. What's the game plan here? Just survival, or are you going to go on the attack?
I think it's just going to be survival. I think there was that many incidents on the opening laps, it's just going to be a case of just pick them off as you can, let everyone else trip each other up and get through it.
Excellent stuff. Well, congrats on the race victory, Jordan. Jack, I believe, has our runner-up.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I thought I was still muted then. Yeah, absolutely. We got Callum Newsham in the booth as well. Callum, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Fantastic. A big congratulations to yourself. It's sort of, I suppose, it's finally getting the race result that matches your pace here. We haven't really seen that much of the sort of trophies that you've been getting recently in this series, but it's nice to see you on the podium.
Yeah, I've been quite quick, but nowhere near as quick as Jordan. He's just crazy quick in a minute. But I've been struggling with my consistency, so I kind of dialed it down a bit now, so I'm getting a bit better in the races. But yeah, happy to be on the podium with my dad as well. That's pretty cool.
I was going to say, if only it was real life, really, it'd make a hell of a picture, wouldn't it, if you were on the podium with him? Race 2, a little bit different. Obviously, you're going to be starting right at the back. Game plan, is it a case of try and even maybe take the pace down even a touch more so you can sort of suss it all out? Or are you just going to try and get to the front as quickly as possible before Jordan, before the rest of them?
I'm just going to see what happens in front of me because I think it might be a bit of carnage, so we'll just see what happens.
Well, fair enough. It's always probably the better way of doing it. We'll see what happens when the lights go out, shall we say. Thanks very much, Callum. We'll hope to speak to you after race 2.
Thank you very much. Right then, keeping on with the Newsham theme, as Callum referenced, it was 2 Newshams on the podium. Dave, welcome. I think this is your first appearance in the top 3 this season, and that was, again, one of your quieter races, shall we say.
Yeah, the first lap was really exciting. But after that, it was, very boring. Just trying to hang on to Callum. He just edged away from me, and then it's a case of just looking at my mirrors and controlling the pace there.
You're doing more and more of this sim racing thing of late, though. It's clearly something you enjoy. Where did that sort of start? Was it through lockdowns, or is it something that maybe through Callum you've always had a bit of an interest in?
Kind of started when I finished racing, to be fair. So, yeah, I still wanted to race something. So this is the way to do it, I think. Focus on Callum and the real thing now. So yeah, I enjoy doing this, although I haven't done a lot lately. Hardly anything at all, so it's good to do a championship again. It's really good. Enjoying it.
Well, it's been great to have you here. Best of luck for race 2. We're going to have to leave you now, though, because we want to very quickly have a chat with our silver class winner, who is with Jack.
Yeah, Brad Smith, congratulations. I mean, you feel like you've been part of this championship since day one.
Yeah, pretty much. People keep dropping out and doing whatever they're doing, going on holiday, and asking me to step in. I don't know why me, but I'm pretty sure Simon and Team Smartfire will be happy with that result.
I was going to say, very quickly, you've had a lot of practice with the car now. Race 2, you're going to be starting from the back. Ambitious?
Yeah, it's just a case of see what happens, I think. I'm a silver driver at heart, so I'll only mess up if I try and push my way through.
Well, I hope you go out there and enjoy yourself. As you mentioned, I think Smartfire and Simon will be very happy they invited you into their car. Congratulations, Brad, and we'll see you after race 2.
Hopefully. See you later. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Impeccable timing as ever, Mr. Oliphant, because we're about ready to go for the second time tonight. So, full reversed grid. Looks like we had 16 runners at the flag in race number 1, which means that Jordan Brennan starts 16th, and Rich Hayden gets himself, I think, his first pole position of the season with Martin Johnson alongside. The red light's about to come on then. The revs will start to rise. Who gets into Redgate corner first? Keep an eye on the championship protagonists further back. It's going to be another busy 20 minutes of racing, which gets underway now. Decent start made from Hayden. A good start again there from Eric Axelson in the green and yellow car, up to third already is he maybe as they head towards the first corner, and into the right hander they go. Carl Felvis has dropped behind him, and now Axelson goes on the attack for second as well. Could be a bit of a dark horse for the race victory here, Axelson. In the background, everyone cleanly through Redgate by the looks of it, but Jack, will that continue through the old hairpin?
Well, fingers crossed, touch wood, it does, obviously, but we're smarter than that, and we've seen enough motorsport to know that it doesn't always quite go to plan, does it? What I can tell you is Jordan Brennan's got past Callum Newsham already, and Jack McIntyre at the rear end of the field. Keep an eye on that. but Rich Hayden leads the way as Axelson comes under attack by Carl Felvis. Felvis really trying to prove his worth, shall we say, in the second race. We just hope that everything's calmed down after race number 1, although in the background it doesn't look like there's much calming down at all, because Nicky Taylor is getting up alongside Jack Smith yet again. And this is really sparking it out. It looks like they're under safety car. They're on rolling start almost, Andy, doesn't it? They're so close together. But Smith on the outside trying to get past Taylor into the final corner. Who will lead lap 1 in this battle? We'll have to wait and see, but I think it's going to be Nicky Taylor. Shock collar there.
Yeah, he is not backwards and coming forwards, is Nicky. Side by side for second now. And that's Axelson to the outside of Johnson and Carl Felvis to the inside. 3 wide into Redgate. Rarely ends well. There's bound to be contact. Who comes out worse is the real question. Well, actually, that's reasonably clean. Buki's out wide into the weeds. Dave Buki there after a really good run in race 1 was derailed at that corner. The same is true early on here in the second race. How did this work out? Axelson down to 4th. Didn't expect that. Eric Axelson was moving forwards nicely, drops to the back of that little group now, and he's got Rob Butler all over him. Meanwhile, Jack, there's one man who's really benefiting from this out in front. Rich Hayden, the best part of a second clear now.
Yeah, he has to keep building that advantage for as long as possible. Take advantage of the fact that Felvis will probably have Johnson and Axelson all up in his backside for as long as possible. But what you would say, Andy, is the fact that there aren't that many of these sort of championship protagonists, shall we say, that have managed to fight through quite as quickly. There are quick drivers around. Felvis is a quick driver. He just didn't have the race 1 he wanted. Axelson's a quick driver. Rob Butler, he's seen come back this weekend as well, this evening, shall we say, and has proven he's got speed. So Rich really needs to try and get gone before any of the others really catch up or stop squabbling, because there's a lot of squabbling right now, and as I mentioned, he needs to go forward before he goes backwards.
Ooh, Butler there up the inside of Axelson, who was then desperately late on the brakes in defence and ended up almost turning that into an attack against Martin Johnson, but they stay in the same order. Johnson 3rd, Axelson 4th and Butler 5th. In the background, we were seeing Jack Smith getting a mega run out of the chicane and now making contact with Nicky Taylor. We've said that already tonight. Nicky hangs on to it and hangs on to the place. Good car control, but he's wide at the old hairpin, all over the grass, and now Jack Smith will get the run up through Starkey's, continuing to climb uphill now through Schwantz Curve. But look who is behind them. It's the Liquimolly car of Jordan Brennan. He has made storming progress in this race and is still only a couple of positions behind Jack Smith. Jack McIntyre, meanwhile, stuck down in 12th place. So from a championship perspective, Brennan again getting the job done so far.
Yeah, we mentioned quite a lot about championship standings and how it would all work out. I'm very quickly going to tell you that Jordan Brennan is 22 points ahead of Jack Smith. Obviously, Smith is now got past Nicky Taylor. Doesn't look like that Taylor's going to really have much of a fight in terms of raw pace on Smith, so Smith will be hoping to take advantage of the fact that just ahead of him is a battle between Butler and Axelson. They're going side by side. Towards the back end of the field, though, Callum Newsham goes into the pits, and Dave Newsham doesn't look to be going very quickly either. Neither does Joel Lask. So 3 drivers that did very well in race number 1. We spoke to 2 of them, of course. Not really getting the job done here in race 2. There's more contact at the front end. There is Axelson and Butler hit each other going down Craner curves. Smith will look that and his eyes will light up, won't he? Because he's trying to get the run on Axelson now. He should have the run, really, going into McLean's. You'd have thought he would have had the inside line. He does have the inside line, and I think that's going to be job done.
Yeah, nicely done. He's making good progress here. So too is Kyle Felvis, though. That nearly 1 second advantage that Rich Hayden was enjoying a lap or so ago has evaporated. They've both built up a good margin, though, over the rest of the field. So if they don't hold each other up too much here, he says, hopefully, they may well be able to keep the rest of the field at bay. Side by side again. This is now Nicky Taylor defending from Jordan Brennan. Well, not really defending, actually. Brennan had the inside line, and in the end made that look pretty easy. So Brennan goes 6th. He continues to be just 1 position behind Jack Smith at the moment as the leaders head towards Redgate.
I think the likes of Smith and McIntyre will probably watch that back and think, why on earth did Nicky Taylor let Brennan go that easily when they held me up for about 5 laps in race number 1? But it just looked like Brennan had the overall pace, and he got a really good exit as well, going for that narrow line, going through the final chicane. So fair play to Jordan Brennan, but Taylor doesn't really look like he has much answer, as I mentioned before, in terms of raw pace. So Felvis has gotten into the lead, I believe, on Rich Hayden, but looks at the timing tower. In fact, it has happened. So Rich Hayden, you mentioned before, and he had a second gap. He couldn't build it. Carl has pulled him in, and all of a sudden it's come off. So Felvis is in the race lead.
Yes, he is indeed. Felvers then should now, it would appear, have the pace to get away potentially at the front. Jack McIntyre out of Coppice Corner, up the inside of Andy Carroll. And this is for ninth position, but it's not for a position within class, so McIntyre needs to get this move done. The next few cars ahead of him are in the gold class, but McIntyre, you have to say now, realistically, is starting to wave goodbye to his championship hopes. It has not been a good Donington Park for the Sancho Simsport driver. Into Redgate Corner they go. And off at Redgate Corner goes Martin Johnson. That was Rob Butler slipping through on the inside. I'm not sure how Johnson ended up in the weeds, but either way, he's going to lose a lot of places because of it. Butler goes through, Jack Smith goes through, so too do Brennan, Taylor, Axelson as well, and even Jack McIntyre will have a pop at him going into the old hairpin. Indeed, he slips through too, so that drops Johnson down into ninth place, but still, just about Jack hanging on to the silver class lead.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's going to be quite important for him. But look at that, Andy Carroll is right there swinging, isn't he? Now, that's a bit of a return to form, shall we say, from Andy Carroll. I mentioned there was a 22-point gap between Brennan and Jack Smith, and Jack Mack, actually, because Smith and McIntyre are actually both on 95 points going into this one. So the battle for second place is white hot, shall we say. We've got to keep an eye on Jack Smith and McIntyre's progress through the rest of this race. But if we're talking about the silver category, Paul Zanatachi pretty much extended it. I think there is, if my maths serves me right, a 17-point gap between Zanatachi and Andy Carroll, so really impressive. But Carroll needs to score good points if he's got any hope getting into Snetterton.
Well, he is ahead of Zanatachi at the moment by a handful of places, isn't he? So he is set to shrink that gap. I think realistically, if you can go to Snetterton with a deficit of, in the single figures, so less than 10 points in it, then that realistically is something that could be overturned, especially in that silver class, because it can be quite volatile, can't it, sometimes at the front of the silver class, in the middle of the pack, especially in these reverse grid races. Anything could still happen through the final two races at Snetterton. Not even halfway through this one, though, the final race from Donington Park, the third to last round of the championship. Kyle Felvers holding on to the lead, Rich Hayden still second, but this group is getting ever closer, isn't it? Rob Butler, Jack Smith and Jordan Brennan, with Nicky Taylor for good measure. They are four drivers that you do not want to see bearing down on you in the mirrors, and even though they're fighting, their lap times are still very, very comparable to Rich Hayden ahead.
Well, actually, they're about half a second quicker than Rich. We'll see what they look like once they all cross the line this time round. But you're right, if they start fighting, they'll just hold each other up. Butler making a little bit of a lead on Jack Smith, telling him to get over to his line. If he wants to go around the outside, you're going to have to do it the hard way, shall we say. And Smith, I don't think quite gets the run. So we might actually see Jordan Brennan take massive advantage here. This could be huge for the championship. I think Brennan's going to get it as they go down Hollywood, round the outside of the Craner Bend. Jordan Brennan with the exit round T1 gets into third position. Fantastic driving by him, and Rich Hayden will now look in his rearview mirrors and all of a sudden realise who exactly is chasing him down, and he'll probably have to slowly kiss goodbye to that second place.
I know I'm only a commentator, not a racing driver, and I know Jack Smith knows a lot more about this than I do, but I don't understand why he put himself in that position. Not only is the outside at Redgate a risky place to be, but that was Jordan Brennan's teammate that he was racing with. I mean, Rob Butler was never going to just wave him through, and of course with Brennan right behind, it was then an easy 2 places gain for Jordan, and he's now ahead. Brad Smith is not ahead of many people now, though, because he's been off at Coppice Corner. Dave Buki and Andy Carroll go through, and critically, Paul Zanatachi could gain another place. No, he's not quite close enough, is he? He's going to look to the inside, can't quite make the move stick. I'll say crucially, because Zanatachi could do with a few more points here. Back to Redgate Corner we go. Still, Rob Butler is fending off Jack Smith, who goes to the outside. There's proper contact this time, and Nicky Taylor's rubbing his hands with glee, saying, oh, go on, then I'll have a piece of this. He gets right in the slipstream of I should say, with Jack Smith to the outside. This again is a perilous, perilous position for Jack Smith to be in. He's into the door of Rob Butler's car again. They're still wheel to wheel, and where does Nicky Taylor go? Gets a good run on the pair of them, but ultimately nowhere to take all of that momentum. Oh, no, contact with Smith, who again makes another sensational save, this time at even higher speed through Starkey's curve. That was remarkable.
Yeah, fantastic driving by Smith, but it is the worst, I'd say the worst feeling in the world. It's obviously not the worst feeling in the world as a racing driver, but it's a painful feeling if you're the likes of Nicky Taylor. You see two drivers fighting up front. It's Martin Johnson. He's lost the silver category lead, that's for sure. Dave Buki's actually taken it over. But when you get such a good run against two drivers just ahead of you through old hairpin, so shall we say, and then you just have nowhere to go. Jordan Brennan's got past Rich Hayden as well, who runs very wide on the exit at the final chicane. Not sure where that move happened, but what we do know is that Rich isn't looking that strong to hold on to this podium position for now, especially if he keeps throwing it off on the outside there. Smith on Butler yet again. It's a rinse and repeat of the previous lap, as again Nicky Taylor looks interested.
This now adds an extra spark to this already raging fire that is the fight for 4th place, because Rich Hayden, if he does back up into this group, with respect, he's not as quick as them. Oh no, Smith's off! Jack Smith, a wheel on the grass into the old hairpin, and exit stage left for Jack Smith, and that is going to really do for him. Now he drops behind even McIntyre, look, so that will be advantage McIntyre in the fight for second in the points, but that was a rare mistake from Jack Smith. Again, his car control came to his rescue in that he didn't spin, but an awful lot of ground lost through, ultimately, his own mistake.
I was going to say, put it in the calendar, because you don't see that every day. It's Jack Smith throwing it off himself, completely unopposed, shall we say. And a lot of the times we see these drivers and they say, oh, I've made a little mistake here, a little mistake there, and it basically ruins their lap by half a tenth or something. And you're watching the broadcast thinking, I don't remember you making any mistakes. But that was a bona fide, genuine mistake, one that I would call a mistake if I was a driver, shall we say. Absolutely threw it off, unfortunately, on the outside, going into old hairpin. Didn't really stand a chance as well. Butler gets a little bit of contact with Nicky Taylor, who's... Oh, I tell you what, there's a little bit of that coming to the floor here, isn't there, in terms of both races. Not just Nicky Taylor, but all round on the grid. I think they maybe just need to calm it down. Going into Snetterton, there's lots of high, medium speed corners, and we want everyone to finish the best they can.
We do. Well, we want them all to finish first and foremost.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean, really.
Right now, they're flirting with not doing that, aren't they? Oh, Jack Smith! Jack Smith is slow!
Oh.
Jack Smith is slow! Now, is this another off? Is it damage? What's going on? He's picking up the speed now, but he's dropped right to the back of the field. I was just working out the points, and as it stood, he was going to be about 30 points behind Jordan Brennan, who could still go on and win this race, by the way, because he's catching Kyle Felvers pretty rapidly at the head of the field, but now even more places lost for Jack Smith, and it may mean that the only man that can now stop Jordan Brennan in the championship is Jack McIntyre, and he needs to get past some of these cars. He's got Eric Axelson ahead of him, and Nicky Taylor and Rob Butler. They're all in the same class. They're all worth championship points, and he is at the inside of Axelson. This now becomes the most important car on the racetrack as far as the championship's concerned. The amount of progress McIntyre gains now could make the difference between the championship being settled tonight or it going down to the wire in a week's time.
Yeah, I'm glad you're volunteering to do the calculations, Andy, because I don't stand a chance.
Absolutely not, under no circumstances.
Because, yeah, it's a completely mind-boggle, isn't it, basically? It's harder than Wordle these days. It's trying to figure out how everybody is going to fit into their specific championships. It's really difficult. What I can tell you is Dave Buki is scoring some valuable points, and by the looks of how it's standing at the moment, Joel Lask in the silver category, as Jack Smith going up the inside of Joel Lask, by the way, as well, into McLaren's. Joel Lask is going to slip from 3rd down to 4th, and Dave Buki's going to pip him. And maybe as well, he's going to pip Andy Carroll. Maybe not, because Carroll is 3rd in class at the moment. So, again, silver category really nice and tight. What we can say is Paul Zavatachi, he's going to lose out a couple of points, but it's not going to be the end of the world for him if it stays like this. Jack Smith is being attacked by Joel Lask, and I don't think Jack Smith was really... I don't think he was expecting this, Andy. I don't think anybody really was. Or how elbows out and how aggressive the other drivers on the field are to get past him. We see sometimes in another real-life touring car series, shall we say, we don't want to be naming names, but certain drivers, they jump out the way as soon as they see a certain car. And then sometimes they just think, you know what, I don't need to get out of the way of you. I'm fully entitled for my position here. And they just still fight back, which is lovely to see.
Well, it is from a neutral perspective, such as ours, yes, but if you're fighting for a championship, it's the most infuriating thing in the world because it's not their fight. They've got nothing to gain from fighting with Jack Smith, and Jack has everything to lose, so I'm sure he's spitting feathers inside that car at the moment. We're on board here with Jack McIntyre. He's in behind Nicky Taylor. I reckon at the moment Jack would be about 25, 26 points behind Jordan Brennan as it stands, so it would still go down to the wire, but Jordan Brennan is only half a second off the race lead now, and that would be an extra 3 points if he could do it. It wouldn't be enough to wrap the title up, but if McIntyre goes off like this, that could still change. A big mistake there from McIntyre. The pressure starting to set in maybe now. He's got 4.5 minutes and change left to get himself potentially onto the podium here. He could still get past Nicky Taylor, and if he's really brave, have a pop at Rob Butler as well. Battle for the lead down towards the Craner curves.
I was going to say, I think it's about that time where he needs to start being a little bit desperate and trying those slightly ambitious moves, because Jordan Brennan, I mean, Carl Felvis is a good driver, don't get me wrong. He's very strong in his defence as well. He's rarely, I mean, that race 1 incident we saw is rare, really. We don't see him any malicious sort of manoeuvres side to side. He's clean under braking. He doesn't really try anything too ambitious or anything like that. It does mean that he's strong in his defence, but Jordan Brennan has so much pace on him. I do fear the worst for not only Felvis, but McIntyre as well, because I think he's about to see his championship rival potentially go into the race lead in the final 4 minutes. But Felvis is going to do everything he can to try and hold on to that individual prize of taking that race win here in the TCT, because I don't think anybody apart from the famed top 3 have actually done that yet.
No, absolutely. This could be a real achievement for Felvis. He's not going to give up, but here comes Brennan. Brilliant dummy there from the outside to the inside. But we've seen, haven't we, the inside of Redgate isn't always the best place to be to complete a manoeuvre. And that's why that momentum on the outside for Felvis carries him back in front. Now, Brennan doesn't need to take a big risk here, does he? He's in a good points position. He's 4.7 seconds ahead of the fight for third. So the only way they're going to catch him is if he throws it down the road here. So Brennan, you know, second place is better than ending up in the kitty litter. He's clearly quicker than Felvis and goes for it up the inside into McLean's move of the day. That, can he get it stopped? Just about. Felvis tries to get back at him on the inside into Coppis, though. He's got the overlap, and I'm sure Felvis will carry as much speed through the right-hander as he dares to do. Still door-to-door, the title line for Felvis. Can he clear the championship leader? He desperately wants to, but he can't quite get back onto the racing line, and they will once again rub wing mirrors as they head towards the chicane. On the left is Felvis, on the right is Brennan, who takes a lot of curb through the right-hand element of the chicane. That works because it gives him a good exit, and they are wheel to wheel once more.
This very much reminds me of watching my brother try and win the Ginetta Super Cup in 2015 or whatever it was. He doesn't need to do it, Brennan, but he's throwing everything at it to do it anyway, and there's going to be a little bit of contact between himself and Felvis, and I think they're both driving very well. There's a lot of racing respect there. Their lap times are absolutely plummeting, though, and I will very quickly apologise. Apparently Isaac Smith won an outright race in gold category, so I was wrong there in terms of the big 3 winning every single race. But Carl Felvis wants to be the second driver, and maybe the driver that's attended every single race, but not yet won.
Yes, I had forgotten about that. It was a reverse grid race, wasn't it, somewhere earlier in the season that Isaac was victorious in. You're right about the lap times, though. They're only 3 seconds clear of that third place battle. Now, the good news for Brennan is that's his teammate in third, and that is an audacious attempt to overtake at Coppis, which was never likely to work. Felvis had the rear brakes locked up and everything there as he tried to defend. He will only have to defend, well, no, he's probably going to get 2 more laps out of this. It's going to be tight, isn't it? What are they lapping in? Just over a minute? Yeah, they're going to be 2 more laps to go here. So by the time we get to the checkered flag, we could have, realistically, 5, maybe 6 of them together for the race lead. The rate at which Butler, Taylor, McIntyre and Axelson are catching these 2 is pretty astonishing. And yes, there will be time for 2 more laps. Late lunge this time from Brennan. If he gets stopped, it'll be a miracle. He does. Judged it to perfection, gets the car parked on the apex, and Jordan Brennan gets to the race lead.
I tell you what, don't mess with Jordan Brennan in a race to the McDonald's drive-thru. He'd absolutely dive you, wouldn't he? That is a sensational move by himself. Carl Felvis obviously wants that position back, but going through Old Hairpin, you can just see a tenth, maybe 2 tenths, maybe 3 tenths by the time they get to Coppis in the final chicane, just eking out, unfortunately. And I don't think he's going to quite have the overall momentum to try and fight back with Brennan. But a really good race by Felvis. Exactly what we wanted to see. A comeback like that. Really solid drive. Just make sure you're following Brennan as best you can, because the last thing we want to see, from his perspective, obviously, is the likes of Butler, Nicky Taylor and McIntyre coming through the bike, because he has driven fantastically well. Now, he is not in for the running of driver of the day, Andy, I don't imagine, after that race 1. But we do have to think about that as well. And with only 9 seconds, basically on the timer, basically a lap left, that's going to be a bit of a tricky decision to make. I'm not even sure who I can pick out to sort of give as an example.
Yes, agreed.
Exactly.
I'm with you on that. Okay, let me get to thinking about that. Here comes McIntyre, though. This battle isn't over. Around the outside of Nicky Taylor. This is important. I've got him 29 points behind Brennan at the moment, with 33 left on the table after this race, so he would still be in contention. But he's got to be careful there to the outside of the old hairpin. He needs more points if he can get them. And that is a ridiculous move right round the outside of the old hairpin. Gives him the inside for the kinks at Starkeys and Schwantz. And that is 4th place for Jack Mack. That was a brilliant overtake. I said that Jordan Brennan had move of the day. I take that back now. That was outrageous stuff from Jack McIntyre. Squeaky clean, fully committed round the outside at one of the hardest corners in British motorsport, and that's 4th place now. Hopefully, he will hope anyway, in the bag.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we'll give McIntyre the move of the day, actually, because I have one name has sparked into my mind for driver of the day, and that is, of course, Jordan Brennan. He's about to make it the perfect evening's racing. 2 first place on the checkered flag here at Donington Park and pole position. He's extended his championship lead by quite a handsome margin, shall we say. Rob Butler comes home in 3rd place as a return to the championship. McIntyre with that move on Buki. Sorry, not move on Buki, as Buki races to the line with Brad Smith. Brad Smith just about pips the silver category, and I don't think he can even believe the evenings that he's having at the moment. 2 silver victories here for Brad Smith. I'll finish off the top 10, shall I, Andy? Just as I started it. Nicky Taylor comes home in 5th place. Eric Axelson in 6th. Dave Newsham 7th. Rich Hayden ended up finishing in 8th, with Brad Smith, as I mentioned before, taking the silver victory, and 9th, with Dave Buki rounding out the top 10. But realistically, we all know, Andy, that Dave has pretty much scored the most amount of points in that race for silver, because Brad Smith is only scoring half.
Yes, which is the one saving grace for Buki, because he will be furious to have lost the victory by a nose at the line. He was on the grass for some reason going out of the chicane, and that's what allowed Brad Smith through. Right, driver of the day. I mean, we don't tend to give it to a gold class driver that wins a race from pole and, you know, has a pretty easy time of it, but I think just for that race 2 performance alone, Jordan Brennan, for me, deserves it, because not only was it an awesome drive from, 16th on the grid to take the victory, but with all of that pressure on his shoulders as well. If any one of those individual overtakes had gone wrong, that could have been championship over. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to give Jordan my vote for that. Jack, do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I mean, it's, we don't often, as you say, give driver of the day to the driver who scored the most amount of points, but he's been impervious to pretty much everything that everybody else has thrown at him today, and yeah, top dollar for me.
Excellent stuff. Right, well, he's probably already heard us talking about him, but Jordan Brennan is here in the commentary box. Well, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? Pole position, 2 race wins. I think you got fastest lap in both races as well, and for that reason, we have decided that you fully deserve the AOC Gaming keyboard as your prize for driver of the day, because that was quite simply perfection.
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, it was a good race, that. Fair play to Kyle at the end there. He drove really well and made that really hard to get past him. It was a fun battle.
Well, that was my next question. Did you enjoy that? Because, you know, we're sat here sort of biting our fingernails for you, because at any point that could have gone horrendously wrong and you could have been off the road and hemorrhaging championship points, but you were still able to enjoy that fight.
Yeah, I was smiling. I was smiling having that battle, but yeah, it's just nice to have a fun, clean battle. Yeah, fair play to him. He was quick. It made that hard.
It wasn't the only good battle you had in that race either, because you started 16th, I think, on the grid. There were a few moments where it looked a bit dicey, but I don't know, you just always seemed to put yourself in the right place. I'm sure you'd love to take full credit for that, but there's a bit of luck involved almost, isn't there, in that as well?
Yeah, there is, but again, you can kind of read a situation in front of you. If you know, you can kind of get a read for where cars are going to end up. So you just kind of got to place yourself before you get to the corner.
Well, one last bit of good news for you as well. The points have just been updated. We'll show our viewers at home the confirmed points in a moment or two, but we've got you 30 points up now on second place, with, I reckon, 33 available at Snetterton. Now, I asked you at the start of the night what your ideal points margin would be at the end of it. I'd say that's pretty ideal.
Yeah, I'd say so too. I don't think you could get any better than that. So I'm happy with that.
Well, you could have made it really easy for yourself and won it here tonight, but I suppose, well, next best.
Yeah, I tried to win it tonight, but I couldn't. I got as much points as I could, so it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't have done anything more. Jordan, huge congratulations, honestly. That was the performance of the season, really, under immense pressure. And, yeah, we will see you in a week's time at Snetterton.
Yes, thank you.
Jordan Brennan then the race winner in not one but 2 races here tonight, and Jack Oliphant has the man who oh so nearly deprived him of that victory in race 2.
Yeah, Carl Felvis, it feels like it's been a while since we've had a chat to you in the commentary box, really, but a strong comeback there after what was a disappointing race 1. You must be obviously going to be slightly disappointed about losing out on the victory, but second place in a race like that is nothing to be sniffed at.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been here. It feels good to be back. And to be honest, I'm not really disappointed because Jordan deserved that entirely. He drove amazingly that race. I just couldn't hold on for the last few laps that I needed.
What was going through your head when you saw him catching you? You saw him get into second place and everything. Were you just fully focused on the racetrack ahead of you, or did you start maybe inching your eyes towards that rear view mirror a couple of times a lap?
Every time I went over the line, I was just thinking, only 5 more laps of this, and just trying to focus on getting there.
It's amazing, isn't it, how the mind games can come into play as soon as you start to see a driver who you know is quick just start creeping those extra tenths back off you. Race 1, I don't want to dwell on it too long, but can you sort of give us a bit of an overview of what happened? Really, it didn't look like anyone's finest moment, and obviously racing towards the back wasn't ideal. But how did you get there? Because we sort of missed that at the beginning. Can you even remember? It was so long ago.
So into the blind right-hander, which I have no clue of the name. It just went 3 wide, and then I ended up worse off of it. And then fighting at the back, I had some strong pace and was just trying to get through. And there was some argy-bargy, but...
Well, I'm sure the argy-bargy could be discussed at a later date. For now, we'll congratulate you on that second place in race number 2. I know your dad is in the YouTube chat, loving every minute of it. So you can go and share that with him.
Thanks, Jack.
So, yes, huge congratulations, Carl Felfus. That was massively, massively entertaining to watch. Third place, though, in that race and catching those top 2 rapidly towards the end was Rob Butler. Rob, welcome back again to the championship. Missed you the last couple of weeks. I'll tell you what, though, you're not race rusty at all. You were right on it tonight.
Yeah, I struggled a little bit in with consistency. I just couldn't get the last chicane right, but at least I didn't end up on the runway this time at EMA Airport, eh?
Yeah, definitely. You've had worse visits to Donington Park in the past, haven't you? That second race, I want to talk to you about that battle, because there was a moment in particular where you had Jack Smith racing you and you had Jordan Brennan coming up behind, and it worked perfectly for Jordan, didn't it? He got past the pair of you at the same time. How orchestrated can that be when you've got someone like your teammate coming up behind, and I'm sure you wouldn't just want to let him through, but you're also sort of fighting with someone else for position at the same time?
Yeah, it was one of those. We both went into turn 1 a little bit hot, and Jordan got the cut back. And if you go 3 wide down Cranas, there's only one place we're all going. And so I backed out, and I think Jack did as well. Jordan just used his head and got up the inside and through. But it was good for his championship, obviously, but not. I don't know what happened to Jack after that. We were having a bit of a battle, and then he just disappeared from the mirrors.
That was my next question, because we didn't spot that either. We saw him slow and we guessed he'd been off again, but...
I think he touched the grass down at Old Hairpin because he was having a big slide behind me. That's the last I seen, but obviously with Rich at the start of the race, he was banding a little bit and I made some contact with him, so my apologies for that, but it was unavoidable, unfortunately.
It feels funny, really, to be talking to you about championship points because you've only competed in half the season, but I reckon you're only about 15 points off a top 5 place, and of course, if you're in the top 5, there are prizes up for grabs. So, first of all, are you planning on joining us in a week's time at Snetterton? And if so, what do you reckon? 5th place doable?
It really depends on work at the minute, Andy. Hopefully, that's the plan, but I don't know where I am on Monday, let alone next Thursday, but... the plan will be to be out at Snat. I like Snat, and I've been quite fast around there in the sim. So, looking forward to getting back out if it's all possible.
Fingers crossed. Well, best of luck with that. Best of luck with work as well. And hopefully we'll see you in a week's time. But congrats on the podium, mate.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers, mate.
Rob Butler then, 3rd place finish for him. Silver class victory, Jack. Went right down to the wire, quite literally. And you've got our silver class winner with you to tell us all about it.
Yeah, Brad Smith, I hope that you've got a bonus in your contract that you've been subbing in for these for this Smart Fire lot, because that's absolutely brilliant evening's racing, isn't it?
I was going to say, I want some more hot dogs.
It's fantastic. Talk us through that last lap then. We were focusing a little bit further forward, obviously, on Jordan Brennan coming across the line and everything, but all of a sudden we look back and you're pretty much to abreast. What happened at the end?
I knew I had the pace on Buki, so it was just a case of keep it clean, get a fast lap in and see if I can close it in coming up to the chicane and try and get him out of it, which is exactly what I've done.
Well, you did exactly that, and obviously you're only scoring half points tonight for Simon Thorpe, which is a bit of a shame. Do you sort of slightly regret not entering the championship in the full? You've pretty much driven the entire thing on the free anyway, but it's I bet you sort of thought, oh, maybe I could have done a little bit more on this.
Yeah, sort of, but then I don't really want to do it because I know Rich and Dave are watching me to try and push me up into gold, so I'm trying to keep myself down. Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't have gone through and won 2 races tonight then, should you? Because I don't think you're giving them an option at the moment.
well, we'll see, won't we?
Yeah. Anyway, fantastic. Congratulations, Brad. I'm sure the Smart 5 crew will be very happy that they invited you along for this evening, and hopefully, maybe in someone else's car, we'll see you maybe next week.
Yeah, I'll be back next week in Simon's car, I believe, so hopefully we can do it all over again, and then the contract will be through the post, and I'll get a team drive.
Exactly, yeah. Fingers crossed for you, Brad. Congratulations on the double win.
Thank you very much.
Excellent stuff, Brad Smith. Almost doing a bit too well for himself here tonight. Great stuff. So that is it. That was a lot to talk about yet again, and this is what it all means. I was referring to the points when I was chatting to Jordan Brennan. So I reckon at Snetterton in a week's time there will be 33 points left on the table. And look at that, Jordan Brennan 30 ahead of Jack McIntyre. So he hasn't quite wrapped it up as Brennan, but he basically just needs to turn up and finish the 2 races at Snetterton, and he should do enough for the championship. Jack McIntyre will do everything he can though, not just to try and take it off him, but to try and hang on to second place. He's only those 7 points ahead of Jack Smith looking third, and then the fight for 5th. Well, Dave Newsham into 4th place now, ahead of Eric Axelson, and there are 11 points between the two of them, but you could definitely count Kyle Felvers into that fight, and arguably Nicky Taylor, Rob Butler as well, so that's going to be a real screw to try and get into the top 5 in the Gold Class Championship. In silver, Paul Zanatachi on 116 points now then, so that is 19, I believe, ahead of Dave Buki, who will be ruining missing out on that class victory in race number 2. Buki just a solitary point ahead of Joel Lask, who's really been the man on form through the second half of the season. An unlucky race there in race 2, but still a decent points haul for the night. He is third, 1 point ahead of Andy Carroll in 4th, and it is realistically now down to those 3 to settle it. So that's how the points look. 2 more races to go, Jack, at Snetterton. A completely different challenge for the drivers in a week's time, and a really interesting place, actually. We'll talk about this in more detail in a week, I'm sure, but a really interesting place to settle the championship because it's got a bit of everything, Snetterton, has it? It could provide a couple of surprises.
Yeah, I love Snetterton. It's a fantastic way to end the season. In my opinion, it doesn't get used enough, really, because it's got slow speed corners in the couple of hairpins and under the bridge chicane, and it's got fast flowing corners like the first and Williams and onto the back straight, and of course you've got Coram and into the final corner, which I can never remember the name of off the top of my head, but it's one of the hardest braking zones in Britain, in my opinion, or in general racing. It's really separates the sort of the top boys from the sort of like drivers who are maybe just a couple of tenths off. That is where you're going to be making your time into that braking zone. So it's going to be awesome. You want to be tuning in next week for it, of course, 7:30, basically the same format that you've seen today at the same times on the same channels that you've been watching this as well. And if you don't want to wait till next week to catch more VRRC action, then you can always tune in on Tuesday, which is next week, but not quite a full 7 days away, for the final round of the Aegon by AOC MX5 Championship. That's a Virginia full course round 6, where you can see a lot of the drivers that you've seen today also in this championship. And by the sounds of it, they all absolutely love Virginia, and it's a 3-way battle into the end of this one as well. You want to be tuning in for that. 7:30 Tuesday on VRRC YouTube channel as well. And finally, without further ado, we can obviously look at everything else that VRRC entails. If you're a casual sort of cruiser, Forza Horizon 5 player on the Xbox or on the PC on Games Pass, then you can always get involved in our Discord and have a chat to a few like-minded people who love motorsport as much as you do. If you want to get involved in any of our Assetto Corsa competitions, such as the 2 championships you've been seeing on a Tuesday and a Thursday, or if you want to get involved in the time attacks or the fun races on a Sunday evening, all that sort of thing, you can get involved in that as well. And then there's Assetto Corsa Competizione, which is obviously winning in weekly endurance races. And then finally, Dirt Rally 2.0, Monday to Sunday, weekly stages and rallycross battles in there as well. And the weekly stages are brilliant. All you do is log in whenever you can, whenever you want, any time of the week, post your time, and then the results will be published at the end of the week as well. So you don't even need to turn up strictly Wednesday at 7:30. You can log in on a Monday at 6 a.m. in the morning if you really want to. But that's everything that you can get on the Discord for VRRC. So if you want to get involved, check down in the description. There's a link. Click it, set up Discord or sign into Discord, and then you'll be there. Someone will be there to take you through it.
Yes, indeed. Lots of racing, as always, on the VRRC, and in a week's time you can join us, I hope you will join us, for the final round of the Maximum Networks Touring Car Trophy, powered by VRRC. It's going to be a good one, I'm sure. Still plenty up for grabs over those 2 20-minute races around the Snetterton 300 circuit. That, though, is it from Donington Park. We've had a brilliant evening's entertainment, as always, from these drivers, and we're looking forward to doing it once more for the final time this season in a week's time. But for now, from myself, Andy McEwen and Jack Oliphant, and everyone else here at the VRRC, we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
Woo!